I'd ask everybody to please take a seat. Being 5:30, I'll now call to order the regular meeting of the Lake Placid Town Council this 11th day of December 2023, 5:30 p.m. in the Government Center of the town of Lake Placid. If everybody would please turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate, I would appreciate it. And I'd ask everybody to please remove their hats and stand for our invocation and pledge. We are pleased to have with us tonight Brian Hurley from the Sunshine Christian Fellowship Church, who's going to lead us. Thank you for being here, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you. Let's pray together. Father, thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. And thank you for many and abundant blessings we have enjoyed. Thank you for life itself, for the measures of health we enjoy, for the need to fulfill our callings, for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor in bearing appropriate responsibilities. And thank you for loving us from the boundless, gracious nature of yourself. In the Bible, you have said that citizens ought to obey the government authorities, since you have established those very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor and various levels of city officials, particularly the assembled council here this evening. I'm asking that you graciously grant them first wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and need for our people, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, and the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. Second, personal peace in their lives and the joy of their task. I pray for the agenda set before them this evening. Please give all present an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our town of Lake Placid. We pray this evening in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Hurley.
Thank you.
Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Holbrook,
Here.
Member Royce,
Here.
Councilmember Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember Sapp,
Here.
Councilmember Hayes.
Here.
Morning.
All right, we'll go to consent agenda 1, A through F.
I move to approve consent agenda 1, A through F.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments from the podium? Hearing none, we'll take it to the audience. Seeing none, bring it back. Poll the council, please.
Councilmember Sapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Royce,
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Consent agenda 2, approval of all authorized Royce Supply monthly bills for November.
I move to approve consent agenda 2.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other comments from the podium? All right, hearing none, we'll take it to the audience. Seeing none, bring it back. Poll the council, please.
Councilmember Sapp,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson,
Yes.
Councilmember Royce,
Abstain. That business belongs to a family member. I filed the pauper paperwork with the clerk.
Councilmember Hayes.
Yes.
Okay. We did have one request to speak from a citizen before the meeting. Is William Squires here? Squires? Yes.
Briefly, good evening, Mayor and board members. I briefly spoke with the town administrator after he returned from a trip concerning a citation that was reported by an employee of the town of Lake Placid. even though the report does not officially say. When he called in, he introduced himself to code enforcement as a Town of Lake Placid employee, to which he filed a complaint for a piece of property that my wife and I purchased at 807 Lake June Road. There is a trailer that belongs to my neighbor that is stored there. Since we took ownership of this property in October, there is no electrical usage, there's no water usage, and there is no one living there. When I sat down and spoke with the town when I first brought my complaint, I told my wife and I over the last year and a half come up here multiple times, almost every weekend, to enjoy the lake on our boat. We enjoy it, we want to build a home here, we want to retire it. On the day that this gentleman, Robert Clem, a supervisor for the field, called in the complaint on the same day that Sapp Environmental was there doing a septic tank certification for the property. He claimed that we not only had the power hooked up, the water hooked up, he said we put an 80-foot drain line that went from the trailer to the septic tank so we could use the septic on the property. The only thing that's true on this report that he called into code is his name and his phone number. You're putting the city, the Town of Lake Placid, liable for slander, outright lies. None of these statements were true. And I have the owner of the trailer, if you'd like, for verification that that trailer's never been used. I don't even have a freaking key to it. But this man can sit here as your employee and call it in at the same time that they were doing the inspection. There were 3 full-size pickup trucks in the front of that driveway, along with a utility trailer and an excavator, while Mr. Sapp's employees were certifying the tank. This man has the audacity to say, I saw. This is outright libel and slander. And if he's doing it while riding around in your pickup truck with your phone, somebody ought to hold him accountable. I asked the town administrator, you need a policy that if someone's going to make a report like that, they need to take a picture of it for proof. Because if it happens again, we won't be here. We're going to be in a different courtroom. And I want to live here. My wife and I want the freedom to enjoy our peaceful retirement. This is an absolute joke. And I see you got a picture of it. It's a very nice picture. But it's not hooked up to the power, folks. Take a look at it. It's not hooked up to the septic tank that is all the way on the other side of the lot, 100 yards across and 50 yards up. I did not put a PVC line in there to drain a septic. I don't even have a key to it. Would you like the owner to verify I don't have a key to it? No. It's my neighbor. I'm asking you to enforce the fact that the town administrator needs to set up a policy that if you're going to have your employees call and make false accusations and slander my name, be ready to be prepared to protect it.
If you're done, then I'll respond.
Go right ahead.
Anyway, I took the picture.
Okay.
So, and it is still in violation. There's the Highlands County Code of Ordinances that says that that RV is not allowed to be parked on a vacant lot. It is not connected to electric. And however, it would be a simple thing to connect to it, but it doesn't matter because it's still in violation. It's still a ordinance violation. He didn't know your name, didn't talk to you, called in and made a simple code violation claim, which is the exact same thing I did Friday because it is still in violation of the county code. It's in violation of city code, it's in violation of county code. So he gave his name, his address, as any code, as he has to do, and it's still in violation. So my conversation with you is told I would counsel my employee, but I don't write policies for every single instance. So that's my response to the council.
Okay. Any questions from the podium?
No.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Next, we go to public hearings. Yeah, there'll be no talking from the seats. If you got something to say, we'll let you come up, but you have to introduce yourself, tell us where you're from,
My name is Kathy Conley. I am the neighbor who owns that RV, and I would like to see the ordinance that covers that being parked on a vacant piece of property. Is that something?
Well, that's in the county, ma'am. You should ask the county their ordinances.
Well, he said county and city, so I.
Pardon me?
He said county and city ordinance, so
No, it's in the county.
just the
And
county, not a city ordinance.
Putting that vehicle there, I understand, is a violation of the county code and should have been reported.
Okay,
So if you've got a concern about the county ordinance, I would suggest you deal directly with the county.
okay.
It's
Well,
not
I
our
misunderstood
ordinance.
because I thought he said it was in violation of county
And I'm saying-
and
Well,
city
it
ordinance.
is a violation of city ordinance too, but your particular case, it's in the county.
Okay, I guess I don't understand the,
It's not in city limits. It's in the county property.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, next we go to public hearings. Second reading ordinance 2023-11, amendment, budget amendment. Okay, ordinance number 2023-11, an ordinance of Town of Lake Placid providing for amendments to the town budget, semicolon, providing for severance and savings, semicolon, and providing for an effective date period.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve and adopt on second reading ordinance 2023-11, amending the 2022-2023 annual budget to equal actual expenses. With the approval, the budget will be increased by $720,480.61.
A second.
Oh, go ahead.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any other comments from the podium? Hearing none, we'll take it to the audience. Seeing none, bring it back. Poll the council.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Okay. Takes care of the public hearings. Guess we go to town administrator.
Okay, and I will try and speak up in the mic. Hopefully you can hear me. So this is a combination. A lot of this information would have been covered in the public meeting that we postponed, but I went ahead and wanted it presented tonight so the council can hear it and the public can hear it. And then this presentation will also be on our website within the next day or two. So just going through, we're going to go through the new grants, council resolution, existing grant update, and then get down to project priorities and then public comment. So the town has applied for a $15 million grant to pay for connections. However, we won't have an answer until February of 2024. We've also requested a $5 million as a direct legislative appropriation. Again, we won't have an answer on that one until June of 2024. The governor has line item veto authority, so we'll see where that one goes, if it makes the budget. We also applied for a $500,000 grant for reuse extensions, so we don't have an answer on that one until the end of February of 2024. None of these grants are guaranteed, but we will keep applying for additional funding as we move forward. And just as a note and a reminder, our grant came from a $600 million influx to Florida in 2021 due to federal stimulus. $40 million grant was the largest in the state and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. According to a DEP representative, you can expect grants to be much smaller. And with the passing of House Bill 1379, competition for grants has expanded exponentially. We passed a resolution on 9/11 at the September meeting. A lot of this was based on the public comment at the August meeting. The Mayor and Town Council listened to at the August public meeting, taking into consideration the concerns of the community and the goal of reducing discharges into lakes. So they made a significant policy change. The town will own, maintain, and replace low-pressure pumps at each home. It's a significant change. It moves to treat all customers, regardless of the system installed, the same, substantially eliminating the difference to the homeowner between a gravity system and a low pressure. Not entirely, but substantially. The grant the town applied for, if received, will cover 100% of the cost of installation. That includes the grinder system, abandoning the septic tank, and connecting to electric if a low-pressure system. If it's a gravity system, it includes septic tank abandonment and connection to the utility main at the property line. It does not specify one or the other. Just a reminder, the goal in the grant was to reduce pollution in the lakes. The mayor and town council gain nothing by doing septic to sewer conversions other than the protection of the lakes. And as the town and utility director, expanding the system only adds extra work for myself and my staff. So the statement that we're building only for new development is not true. It's much simpler than retrofitting. So if we're only building for new development, we wouldn't be looking at septic to sewer projects. And the do-nothing alternative is what has kept the Placid Lakes Beach closed for 20 years and has led to the continuing pollution of the lakes. So, Dr. Canfield, this was a paper that was a comment that was brought up at the last meeting. Dr. Canfield, for history, was the one of the founders of Lake Watch. I had a conversation for about an hour and a half with Dr. Canfield before the Zoom call with the Lake June Homeowners Association suggested I read the paper. By Dr. Canfield's own admission, he is an outlier with DEP, but I agree with most of what he has to say in the paper. However, DEP is the regulatory agency in the state, not Dr. Canfield. So these are quotes from his paper. Can watershed NPS, non-point source nutrient control programs, provide timely compliance with Clean Water Act goals? Identifying causes of impairment and correcting problems in a timely manner is what most people are concerned with. And non-point source pollution is the result of runoff from stormwater, carrying natural and human-made pollutants. So non-point source stormwater will include septic tank effluent, just for everybody's clarification. He also said that management priorities should focus on actual causes of impairment and the most effective and efficient approaches for improvement. This is the summary of major nutrient contributors to Lake June in the winter, which shows septic tanks for nitrogen are the #1 and for phosphorus #2. Also talks about non-point sources and fertilizer. So this is where Dr. Canfield and I disagreed, and we disagreed on the phone, and I still disagree. It's part of the problem with Lake Okeechobee. He believes that they should not emphasize restoration, but they should emphasize rehabilitation. In his statement, restoration represents an ideal past, virtually impossible given population growth. So, and we shouldn't be waiting decades or a century for improvements. That is clearly unacceptable. So, septic to sewer, this is not a quote from him. Septic to sewer is only part of the answer. We should all be looking to be involved with Southwest Florida Water Management District, Fish and Wildlife, DEP, and the county on using all of the options available to restore our lakes. And with that, FWC Highlands County are hosting a meeting this Wednesday at 6 p.m. at Bishop Park to talk about in-lake restoration. Everybody should attend. There's also one on January 17th. So if you're interested in Lake June, they're going to have a range of experts that will be talking about in-lake restoration. Dr. Canfield, this is also from his paper, that we should be looking at statistically significant increases in phosphorus, nitrogen, CHL concentrations, and declining SETI disk, which is clarity, and they should be targeted first and problems corrected. So these are, and I'll just pull them up. Phosphorus over the last 30 years, we've had a 120% increase in Lake June. The DEP impaired line for phosphorus is 30. We're at right about 20. So, but we started at 8. So we're heading in the wrong direction. Nitrogen's had a 63% increase. The DEP impaired line's 1,050. We're about 700. When you look at chlorophyll, which is where we have been over, and the clarity, we have a 62% increase in chlorophyll and a 47% decrease in clarity. This is the DEP department data from late June. I just found out about this on Friday, so it hasn't been out. But this is, DEP takes samples at 30 lakes in Highlands County annually. The sample's taken from the center of Lake June in this specific instance. And so it shows a number of chemicals or pharmaceuticals and sweeteners that are in the lake water. I can't even pronounce the first couple. Our artificial sweetener is the first one. Primidone is a seizure control medicine. Carbamazepine is an epilepsy and bipolar disorder medication. Acetaminophen, everybody knows, is a product of Tylenol. Tylenol is important in their samples because Tylenol is broken down in a wastewater treatment plant, not in a septic tank. So if this was discharges from our wastewater treatment plant, then it would not be, and they would not find Tylenol in the lake sample. And so it's, and I don't know many other warm-blooded animals that are taking medications or taking artificial sweeteners. So it's pretty clear that the only thing that can bring that or put that in the lake is septic tanks. That information is all available on the DEP website. If you look at their watershed information network, it's all there and available, and you can pull up all of their reports. So I only did 2 years worth of reports, but you can get those reports off of their website. So the emphasis should be on do something programs that correct impairments within the lifetime of stakeholders. And I agree with that 100%. I grew up on Lake Okeechobee, swimming on Lake Okeechobee, fishing on Lake Okeechobee, skiing on Lake Okeechobee, and nobody swims in it, skis in it, boats on it other than fishing today. And they've done nothing for Lake Okeechobee. Clarifications, we're designing for development. Absolutely false. We've never been designing for development. We're designing for septic to sewer conversions. We will have a little more excess capacity in the new plant than we have today, but not a lot. The bulk of the plant, 70% of the plant, would be set up for septic to sewer conversions. Plant's in the wrong place. Existing site is surrounded by ag and commercially zoned property and bordered by a railroad. At the top of the hill provides an additional 75 feet of soil to absorb nutrients before impacting groundwater, as opposed to current septic tanks that are generally less than 10 feet above groundwater. And if you're where I live in Placid Lakes, it's about 3 feet groundwater table, so a lot of those septic tanks are the bottom of them are sitting in the water table. New plant removes 95% of nitrogen and phosphorus versus 30% versus septic tanks, which goes straight into the groundwater, the lake or groundwater. We move ours further away from the lake. We reuse it by irrigating median landscaping. And hopefully with the grant, we'll do more down the median and eventually the cemetery that absorbs even more nitrogen and phosphorus because we're putting it on the plants. The new plant's effluent will be much cleaner than the lake water. And currently, Lake June Hills, which is the closest residential development, they have their own wastewater treatment plant as part of their community. Project priorities, you're going to see a couple of recommendations. Due to continued cost increases, ongoing inflation issues, it's time to further set priorities and make decisions on design and bidding of projects. We need to be realistic about what we're doing, try and reduce the number of projects, and focus our efforts on what we think we can get accomplished. It does not commit the council to construct any of the projects. Until we have bids, we will still not know what needs to get built. Current project design is for the backbone of the system, does not require anyone to connect. And some areas will be available for a low pressure connection based on the location of the force main from one of the wastewater treatment plants. County Road 17 North, Lake Mirror Drive, part of Lake Drive East, regardless of any of the other extension projects. And the council still has the authority to further reduce projects to fund the purchase and installation of grinder pumps, even if the next grant is not received. So there's still a lot of flexibility in what the council has to do, has the ability to do. Just a quick map, if we want to go back and reference it, so we can pull it back up if there's any questions, but this is a map of all the original projects. The council has already eliminated Sun and Lakes and Highway Park, and I'm going to be asking you to eliminate several others tonight. So these are what I list as base project priorities and the dollar amounts that go along with those. We have the, obviously the wastewater treatment plant, currently estimated at $21 million. The Tomoka lift station and force mains at $2 million. Again, these are upgraded cost estimates based on where we were at 2 years ago. The County Road 29 lift station also and force main, which is closing the south plant. Serena and the Main Street lift stations, which are part of the overall design and part of the Camp and Conference Center. So those totals are $28,350,000, which leaves us for line extensions $11,650,000. Quick side note, Camp and Conference Center, we're having a pre-construction meeting tomorrow. Going to get that scheduled, and we will schedule a groundbreaking ceremony on Camp and Conference Center, which will remove about 30,000 gallons a day from wastewater treatment plant effluent flowing into Lake Placid. The Utility Commission had a meeting on Tuesday, had a good long discussion, probably an hour and a half discussion about the projects and what to recommend to council. There were multiple motions made that died for lack of a section. There was a motion made and second, later withdrawn. The final motion that was moved by Mr. Rancourt, seconded by Mr. Draper, was to recommend the Lake Serena and Lake Pearl project to the town council as a project area with a combination of gravity and low pressure systems. That project estimate is $9,460,000 with the remainder as contingency. Passed on a roll call vote, 3-2, and you see that there. One of the most notable points that I got out of this, because we were based on recommendations of design for the, based on water table for Placid Lakes, but Mr. Rancourt, and for those of you who don't know, he owns Excavation Point. He's an expert in construction installation of utilities and roads. And another commission member, Pam Brewer, agreed with him. She used to run Placid Lakes Water Utility. So due to the amount of muck along the canal roads in Placid Lakes, installing gravity sewer lines is virtually impossible, leaving a low-pressure system for Placid Lakes as the only viable option. This is what I listed as Impaired Lakes as a priority projects recommendation. This is mine, and you'll see that the $11,650,000 is what we have remaining. My recommendation totals $15,190,000, which is more than we have. This is for bidding. The council would still have to make a decision once bids are in, an actual cost of what would actually get built. And then I'm recommending the removal of the other projects that are listed below that: Simpsonville, Lake June Hills, Lake June Point, Lake Pearl, Serena, and then the Southtown Gravity. So the council has decisions to make and public comment. They can have any one of several public motions. This is the Utilities Commission's recommendation along with the base priority list, which is closing the other existing wastewater plants, and then excluding the remaining projects. This is a motion for the base priorities as I listed and the Impaired Lakes priority list, low pressure design, excluding the remaining projects. And then you can adopt to do whichever projects you wish. Understanding this is all contingent upon agreement by DEP. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Before I open it up to the public, do we have any comments from the podium?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. All right, at this time, I've had 4 requests to speak. We're going to open it up, though, to anybody that wants to talk, but remember, you've only got 3 minutes. So as you come up, please make your comments brief and to the point so we can consider them all. Colleen Charles?
Thank you for allowing me time to speak, and I would like to comment that the microphone system is much improved, so thank you for that.
Still working on it.
So my name is Colleen Charles, and if I go over my 3-minute time, I have a lot of people here in the audience willing to defer their time to me, and also as the treasurer of the Lake June Point Property Owners Association and member of our sewer committee, I'm speaking on behalf of the homeowners which do reside within the town limits. My interest today is primarily 2 issues related to the sewer project. The first concern is having town council making a decision today to go forward with designs and bids without having special meetings and workshops for the public, which was committed at the August 21st special town council meeting, and again at the September town council meeting, and at the October town council meeting, and even to the Highlands County Commissioners at the September 7th meeting when asked by Commissioner Elwell if a special meeting had been scheduled. In fact, in October, we were told the project was on hold for 3 to 4 months for some areas. Many outstanding questions and concerns resulting from the presentations and information provided at the August 21st meeting have not been satisfied, and we owe the public the necessary time on this $65+ million project, which will be much more when you consider the total number of homes that are planned to be connected over time. Questions, just to name a few, are current and future costs, federal and state grant requirements and associated risks related to cost, number of hookups, and time to complete, town and individual budget impact for immediate and ongoing, water quality improvement projections for replacing sewer with septic, long-term plan for sewer infrastructure and hookups and cost to individuals, and most important, low pressure versus gravity systems by area. Recall this had little support and much concern at the August 21st meeting, and we are waiting to hear the revised results by area. Our recommendation to Town Council is to make a motion today to delay any decisions to go out for bids and costs until you have the special meetings and workshops for the public as previously committed with detailed plans on where gravity versus low pressure would be completed. Our second and most important issue is the location to build the new $1 million gallon per day sewage plant. The plant should not be built on the current site, which is close to Lake June as residential homes for health, environmental, and property value reasons. A much better location is here behind Town Hall, on the unused land the town already owns and in a more industrial area. There are public health and environmental risks with the current plant close to Lake June and residential homes, and considering this location for a 5 times the size sewer plant increases those concerns. Much information regarding public health issues can be researched online, and even some online petitions have information, such as sewage plants, while essential for water purification, have concerning side effects on environmental and public health. The surrounding air is often tainted with terrible smells caused by volatile organic compounds, which have been linked to increased cancer risks. Additionally, emissions of methane, ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, and particulate matter pose serious health and environmental threats. For those living nearby, this isn't merely an odor issue. It's a pressing concern for air quality, well-being, and public health. A study published by the Journal of Environmental and Public Health found that people who lived close to a sewage treatment plant experienced increased occurrences of headaches, unusual tiredness, concentration difficulty, and increased risk in respiratory and skin issues. These plants release methane and hydrogen sulfide, which are byproducts of the decomposition, and adding purifying chemicals like ammonia and chlorine that are used to decontaminate water, and the toxicity is substantial. Living near facilities poses serious health threats. A top priority for our town leaders, I can ask others to fill out a form and have them,
What,
okay, you will allow me the time, or do you need others to defer their time to me? Thank you. This is important. I mean, it's very important. A top priority,
It's also important for other people to speak, so.
and they've
just
asked me
try to
to
go
say
as
these
quickly
on
as
their
you can.
behalf. Thank you. But this is what's important for you as our leader and the county leaders to take note, as that Lake Placid and the surrounding area have diversity of residents, old and young. Building a new sewage plant next to known residential homes could be a problem. Since conditions to receive federal COVID grant money was primarily to support health improvement initiatives, clearly building the plant elsewhere justifies support to build this plant in a better location. One option is to utilize the vacant land from the purchase of this 14-acre site behind Town Hall, and if needed, utilize the 3 adjoining land parcels for an additional 27 acres that was purchased in December of 2021. So between this building and the cemetery, which has the Duke Solar Farm to the north and the planned Duke Business Park to the south, and no residential homes in close proximity, the reuse water could be used for irrigation on US 27, the Town Hall, the cemetery, and the Duke Business Park, and it also would be closer for Tomoka, the connection lines to the new plant. Some of the earlier engineering reports indicated the need for additional land, which would be preferred for the current site, and we understand the neighbors were approached on an interest to sell, which was costly now and will be in the future as expansion is planned. At an April 2022 Town Council meeting, comments were made that the future septic to sewer projects will require additional grants and construction of a wastewater plant elsewhere, which we believe is also consistent with the 2030 Highlands County Comprehensive Plan. This supports that the decision to build a new sewage plant today should be done in a remote area for public health and Lake June, and another sewage plant in a different location in the future. At the September 11th Town Council meeting, a resident spoke about her concerns related to sewer plant location. She was concerned about health issues and mentioned she had a health-compromised son and asked if a different location was considered. The answer was no. Fort Pierce in February of this year had groundbreaking ceremony to move its sewer plant 5 miles away, far from the Indian River Lagoon and in an industrial area away from neighborhoods. Dade City just announced they are moving their sewage plant to city-owned land in a less populated area. Other research shows cities around the U.S. are also relocating or building in remote or industrial areas, which is preferred. We understand the need for improved infrastructure, but it should not come at the expense of residents' health, environmental risk, and property value impact. It is not too late for analysis of pros, cons, and cost analysis be done and presented to Town Council, Highlands County, and the public to make the best decision for the sewer plant and infrastructure that will be successful in the short and long term for our future generations of residents. If you have any questions, I'll take them. If not, thank you.
All right, Joy Eberhart.
Joy Eberhard, 716 Sunset Point Drive, Lake Placid. The first question is very simple. It's about the grant. And as I understand, one of the terms of the grant was that, the grant agreement was that there would be about 2,800 homes connected to sewer. And then in about June of 2022, when some of the numbers were coming in, and we found out that things were costing more than expected, a letter was written to the DEP to ask if there could be a variance to have a lower number of homes connected. And because there was a fear that if we didn't do exactly to the letter of the grant, we would be in default of the terms and conditions. So I'm just wondering, I assume that request was granted, that we did not have to do the full 2,830 homes? Correct. And what was the number that was allowed?
They've not specified a number.
So it could be zero?
No.
So it could be, I guess that's where it's still a dilemma. We don't want to be,
Discussing 1,600,
okay,
but everybody's waiting to see what the bids come in for the plant. You saw Kevin's list of anticipated costs. Only when we have the bids come in will we know the actual costs, and we'll go back to DEP to then determine, is this plan acceptable?
okay, so you're confident that let's say it comes in, we can only afford the 180 for Lake Serena, Lake Pearl?
Sorry?
I'm asking if you're confident that if the numbers say we can only do Lake Serena and Lake Pearl, which is, I think, 180 homes, you're confident that the DEP and the federal COVID money will still be within the parameters of the grant?
Actually, I didn't say that.
I'm
What I
not
said-
questioning.
What I said was, we've been discussing less, 1,600 homes most recently, and we're going to get the numbers in from the bids, so we'll know how much money is available to have the greatest impact.
Okay, so I
Only
guess,
then will we be able to go back and know what FDEP says yes or no to.
I understand that. So here's the quandary. If you find out you can do 500 homes, 600 homes, 200 homes, will the DEP say, okay, you're good, you don't have to do 2,800, you can go down to 200, 500, or 600 and not be in default of the terms and conditions? And you don't know which way the DEP will rule at this point, or do you?
I can't tell you what DEP is going to say,
Okay, so that's,
but I
think
do
that-
know that we're going to be judged by how many homes we take off of lakes when it comes to septic to sewer conversion. Because that's the objective of the grant. You can look at the big map and see the number of areas, the canals we tried to serve, and it turned out just too expensive, and the prices continue to go up.
Yes, I know.
So what they've said is they're going to look and see how we spend that money.
Okay, so, but there is a risk that if we don't get enough homes,
There's a risk that we get no more money from DEP if we spend it poorly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, is it get no more money in the future from DEP, or does that mean that this grant is in default?
Well, I don't believe the town council would go forward in a default position. That, I would be shocked
Okay,
if
so,
you get 3 votes to do that up here. So let's take that off the table. So
okay,
then the issue is, what's the most responsible way to spend the state grant that we've been entrusted to spend? Don't you think?
agree. No, I just don't want to get the whole,
Well, you're asking for too many speculative answers.
I d-
If this and if that, we don't know. That's why we're getting the
Okay.
design and the bids in before we make decisions.
okay, I think my point is I don't want to get us, the town, in a quandary with the DEP if we can't meet their requirements. That's it, period.
Okay.
Totally agree.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So, now, the costs are going up. It's 28 million now. And a year and a half ago, Joe Barber was in the paper quoted, and he said it could go up as high as 35 million. And I think he wasn't that far off. It could be 35 million, that leaves 5 million. And I guess the next question is, what would happen if the bids came in at 40,500,000? I mean, what is our obligation to the grant?
calling for rank speculation, Joy.
Well, I think when you sign an agreement, you have to know what the worst-case scenario is.
When you signed the agreement, we went forward with the DEP's approval to get the prices. And that seems like a rather prudent approach. We've not committed the town to violate a grant or do anything yet.
Okay, well, perhaps you're misunderstanding, but maybe others get my point. Okay, now something easier, a lot easier. So you applied for the grant for the hookups, and we don't know yet if it's going to be granted. Now, maybe I missed it, but what happens if that grant is not approved?
Don't know.
There again, we don't know.
If it's not approved, does that then revert back to where the individual homeowners pay the
We
$15,000?
do know that DEP has worked with us so far. So why would we have any reason not to believe that they wouldn't want us to go further with this?
Okay.
If we can.
Okay,
So we have a good rapport with them. They want to work with us. We want to work with them. We want to do what's right, not only for Lake Placid, but what's right for the county. And that's what we're doing.
okay. I'm putting out worst-case scenarios. Okay, so far this grant, just now to clarify for everybody, the $15 million, was it written such that it was so much per home, or was it a blanket one to be spent over unknown number? And what I'm trying to get at, if it was so much per home, it was written that way, and then the actual costs come in at more than expected, what happens to the difference? If it was written as a blanket for you to spend, then we don't have to worry if the actual connection costs come in at more than we thought. So, was it written as a blanket or per home?
It was written to cover the cost of connection to homes.
Okay, but
So
I'm being persnickety
you
on the
can,
wording.
you can read, yes, you're welcome to read the grant if you'd like to read
Okay.
the grant.
You
as
have the
far as-
grant, don't you?
Pardon?
You have the grant,
Not
don't
the
you?
one, not the one for the 15 million.
Pardon me?
Not the one for the 15 million.
The more recent request?
No, I don't.
But you've got the $40 million grant
Yes.
agreement. That's the one you've really been talking about, isn't
Well,
it?
that was the first question. This is the second.
That's the one you're looking at.
No, I'm
I-
also.
I'm really
also-
curious, Joy, are you concerned about the lakes at all? Let's go to the issue.
Okay, I am concerned about the lakes, but I'm also concerned about the finances.
Well, the lakes, the thing that really concerns me is Lake Placid and Lake June have really gone down in quality.
Look,
Tremendously.
There's no argument.
You never mentioned
There's no
how
argument.
you're going to address the lakes in any of your concerns.
There's no
We
argument.
$40 million grant to try our best to clean up the community's lakes. And it
There-
seems like all you're doing is finding fault.
There is no argument that we want to save the lakes. I think everybody agrees with that. We want to save our lakes. I'm only looking at the financial side of it. I agree we need to do something. There's no argument. I'm just looking at the numbers. So like another question, as far as were there any requirements in the $15 million request? Were there any requirements as to who qualifies for it? Like, were there income requirements, or was there a timeline requirement? Any specifics that we need to be aware of on the hookup grant?
We don't have the hookup grant yet.
But
Don't
how-
know of the timeline.
But how was it written? How was it requested? What was the wording?
We requested a direct legislative grant. There was no timeline on it, giving the state the absolute discretion to do as they care.
Okay,
And we requested a DEP grant. They'll put the timeline on it. That's not something we control.
okay.
We don't even know if we're going to get those.
Well, I meant the timeline after it was granted. And the other question was, is there an income requirement threshold in order to qualify for the individual homeowner?
No.
No.
No? Okay, well, that's good to know. So nobody has to worry about that now.
Whatever areas we go into, whatever areas that we can hook up, we are going to take care of it. We're going to maintain it. It'll all be on us. We're doing this all for the community.
Okay, now, last question again. It's purely financial question. because there's no argument about saving the lakes. Has there been a life cycle cost analysis for the future cost of operations and maintenance of the new sewer plant? And the reason I'm asking is the need to know whether or not the base sewer rates are going to go up or stay the same. Just for the public benefit, if nothing else.
There again, we go through a budget cycle every year. And that'll be determined year to year by how much money we got, how much the scope of work we can do. So to answer that question right now is impossible. But it will be taken into account at the time of the budget constraints, and we will do what we can.
A good business will do like a 10-year plan to know what their expenses are going to be and how they're going to handle it. They don't wait to say what it is at the end of each year.
We have a 5-year plan that we work on. 10-year
Okay.
plan's a stretch for anybody, but we do a 5-year plan and we work on that constantly.
Okay, so then you took into account the future increase in maintenance and insurance and whatever's for this scenario.
Yes.
The engineering folks that helped us design the sewer plant were very clear that this plant that we've chosen was one that is the cheapest to operate and the most durable.
But compared to what we have anyway.
Well, no, compared to anything.
Okay. All righty, I'm almost done here. No, the town has graciously agreed to take on the operations and maintenance of the grinder pumps, which is going to be another unexpected expense, because you don't do this now. So I guess it'd be nice to know how that's going to affect the budget. And then lastly, each home has to have a check valve with the low-pressure system in order to keep the sewage from coming back at them. And I would hope that the check valve was included with the town's plan to take on the operations, ownership of the pumps. Because the check valves have to be maintained, and they do fail once in a while.
There's actually 2 check valves. There's one at the
Yes.
property and one at the grinder pump. So
Yes.
there's actually 2 check valves.
But I'm hoping the town will take into consideration they will also own and maintain those 2 check valves.
Yes, if we own the grinder pumps and we own the check valves, they're
Good.
between the grinder pumps and the road, so they're
Okay.
included in the maintenance.
Okay, good, thank you. That's what I was hoping you would say. All right, that's it. Thank you for your time.
Marlene Barger?
Hello, everyone. My name is Josephine Comley. I live at 607 Sunset Point Drive in Lake Placid. Questions here, or a little bit of information. Will the selected homes on sewer be required to hook up to the collection lines? And if so, what is the time frame to hook up? What type of costs and dollar amounts will each homeowner have to pay? The $40,000 grant originally planned for 9 different areas consisting of 2,480 homes. Today, the remaining $11 million funding will only allow for 1 area. My big question is, how will the annual incremental operating cost for this new plant, which is 5 times the current plant, be paid, since there will be 93% less homes than originally planned? And who will be charged those costs? Only those using the sewer plant? For example, the current sewer homes and businesses plus the 180 new users? Or will it be spread over everyone's using water? Or spread over every taxpayer? Or how? Have you completed a 5 to 10-year business plan to determine the impact on the town's budget? And may we get a copy of that, please? Thank you very much.
Well, that's a couple of those very quickly. Well, as far as the the operating the plant as a lower capacity is not an issue. Number one, we're combining 3 plants into one, so automatically we're gonna have about 300,000 gallons. It's a dual tank. So 500,000 in each tank. If we didn't hook up anybody else, we'd have 1 tank running at 80% capacity using half of the equipment. So it will be lower and cheaper to run 1 central plant than it is to run 3 separate plants that are all 20-plus years old. So those costs go down. The 5-year warranty on all the pumps, we're not concerned about any of the additional cost other than the labor if we have issues in that changeout. But for the pump itself, there's no charge for 5 years. So we are working on those issues down the road on what they will be moving forward. But the total life of the pump is 15 to 20 years. There is maintenance that you do on the pump at 8 to 10, and that's a quick change out. So I don't anticipate that, number one, you asked water versus sewer. Water is a separate budget than sewer. We don't commingle funds between water, sewer, the town, or the taxpayer. So everything's based on what the sewer rates cost and what they do. But the new plant will be cheaper to operate than what the old plant is, even at a lower capacity. Actually, I'd say probably particularly at a lower capacity.
Okay. And, I guess you touched on something. If and when these pump station grinder pumps are put in, how much manpower are you going to have when they go down? I mean, I know they're under warranty. You're saying 2 years. Don't have a straight answer. The engineer said 5 years a couple months ago. So these pump stations for individual homes originally was said 2 years. The engineer said 5 years. So let's just say you're not able to get them, and you're going to be servicing these pumps, okay? How frequently, how much manpower are you going to have? Because I know you're very shorthanded as it is, okay? You're in a lot of different things that you're doing. You're doing the new police station. You're doing a pickleball, trying to get a grant for pickleball. You bought 25 acres, and my last that I knew, you were going to be putting a water tower. One of the councilmen told me a water tower was going to go on the 17-acre of why you bought this building. So I'm just wondering, how much manpower? Because you could have pumps go down, you could have half a dozen or more, depending on how many you have. Have you thought about that and escalated that into manpower?
It's kind of hard to develop that plan until we know how many we're going to be servicing. For example, how many homes are going to be on the system? We can't tell you that tonight. We've still got to get the bids in, build the plant, determine how many lines we can put where, and then we'll know how many people we need to staff. There are certain things we just don't know
I
yet.
understand where you're coming from. Are you a resident of our township? Are you going to be a person that might have one of these pump stations on your property?
Without question.
You are
Yes.
a resident. You are a resident.
I'm a resident. I live on Lake Mirror Drive.
Okay.
The first line will go in by me.
Okay.
And I will have a low-pressure pump. The line goes by me simply because it's running from the County Road 29 plant to hook that plant into our new plant. So the line goes by me whether I like it or not. I just put in a brand-new septic system, which will be abandoned. Just meaning within the past 2 years, a rock system, cost $12,000. So yes, I will be putting one in because my lake has gone straight to the devil.
And I understand what you're saying, but you don't do the budgeting. You're not a voted.
Nobody can do the budgeting
I
until we
understand that,
know the
but-
numbers.
But you can understand what we're thinking, what I'm thinking.
What
So
I
you
can-
anticipate that when this all, whatever is done, you're not going to have like 2 people on staff to come and pump out your.
We have done everything we can to anticipate, to try to get the lowest cost system to our taxpayers. Everybody just assumes, or you seem to be assuming we're not trying to do the best we can to help the taxpayers and service those that are on our lakes Because, you know, in a couple of years, when not if, when your system fails, it's going to cost you $15,000, $20,000 to replace it. Unless that line is there.
And all of you are on board with that as far as I'm
Yes,
saying?
excuse me for a second. I don't think people realize what's coming down the pike with the state of Florida. I'm in the septic business. And right now, on new homes that are less than an acre for another couple of weeks, have to go to an ATU system, which right now costs about $18,000 to $20,000. After the first of the year, it goes to a house, whether you're a new house, whether it's an acre or more, it doesn't matter. The size isn't a restriction. And right now, it's slated that after 2025, every single septic repair will have to go to an ATU. So every repair, current repair now costs about $7,000, $8,000 for a standard house. When the ATUs the tanks have to be replaced, you're looking at $17,000 to $20,000 for an average size house. In Lake June Point, the houses are bigger. You're looking at $25,000 plus to put in a new system if your drain field fails. The houses that were built around 2000, a lot of those houses were built around the year 2000, 2005, are chamber-type systems, and the chamber systems generally last about 20 to 25 years on the high end. So a lot of those systems, I think, are pretty close to failure. The rock systems on a drain field will last 40 to 50 years. And when those houses were built in Lake June Point in the early 2000s, the chamber systems were new. They just developed them around 1999 to 2000 and approved the use of them. At that time, the industry didn't know that those systems wouldn't hold up as long as the rock have. So I'm confident that a lot of the houses on these lakes that were built around that time have systems that are getting pretty close to failure.
Well,
You're going to be paying a lot for repairs after the year 2025, which is just around the corner. I think that the low-pressure system, my perspective, I've been biting my tongue for several meetings, but I think the folks in Lake June Point will probably not have enough money to go there anyway. Most folks have been receptive and willing to talk about it, but I feel like there are 3 or 4 people in Lake June Point who are not being fair to a lot of their neighbors because some of the folks in there want it and they're being quiet. I would like to see low pressure go as far as possible and have the residents pay to hook in when their systems fail, which is going to save them money because after 2025, it'll be $15,000 to put a lift pump in and abandon your tank, or they can pay $20,000 to $25,000 for an ATU. That's going to save them money going forward, having a low pressure system in their front yard. Right now, the town's trying hard to put this in and find money to pay for the hookups and pay for the lift pumps. Personally, I don't think the town should pay for that. I think the residents who own the property and need the service and are currently paying for the drain field should have to pay for those tanks or lift pumps.
And I disagree.
That's okay. You can disagree with me all you like, but I've had to hear it for several meetings, and I'd like for you to know where I stand.
And that's
you need to know what's
fine.
coming around the corner, too.
But don't you think communication would have been the best? I
We can't-
understand that you started this back in 2020.
We can't communicate because we don't have the information yet.
Workshop.
This meeting from the Utility Commission the other day, this is a first direction we've had from them, as far as I know, about what they think we should do. We haven't really been presented with anything yet ourselves, so it's been hard for us to have a workshop because we don't know ourselves yet.
So you can imagine how we feel because we
Oh,
get,
I understand that,
you know.
but we're not getting any support from you guys. We're getting a ton of pushback instead of getting help, and it's very frustrating from my perspective.
We're not, listen, we have legitimate questions.
I understand that.
Okay.
But you're also not being receptive to what we're trying to do.
You know,
Nitpicking about prices and what it's going to be and what might be and what you think might be just doesn't make any sense to me, and it's frustrating.
When we see that you did a special meeting back in, I see, a special meeting back in 2020, last year, 22, you did a special meeting. You already made the determination in that why you eliminated gravity. I understand all the technical aspects here. The problem was, that was back in October, it was in April of 2022. I got a letter as a homeowner, oh gee, I'm pleased you're gonna put in a sewer system. Nothing was determined about anything, but then if you go back into that letter, you will see that it indicates all the decisions that were made without any input or any feelers out there for the people. So we have a right to ask these questions.
You have a right to ask, but I don't know that a
Okay.
decision's been made
It's
yet.
not
I don't see where a decision's been made. And I feel like everyone thinks we've made decisions and nothing's happened yet. And as far as the gravity or the pressure, I feel that if a neighborhood wants gravity, they should vote and do it, and they should pay the difference themselves, and we can charge them overtime to pay for the difference. But there's not enough money in the grant
That's
to,
your opinion, okay?
I understand
Is that
that, and I'm-
everyone's opinion on the panel? Do you all feel that same way?
we're not there yet.
You know,
I can't discuss with them outside of this room. They don't know what I'm thinking, and this is the first they've heard me
well,
say this.
are you
And the
on
first you've heard it.
I'm sorry, are you a councilman? Am I speaking to a councilman?
Of course, yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure because, you know, I know you've had a little change. But I mean, you can see where we're coming from, and this is a big thing. I mean,
I understand where you're coming
when
from, and we have the same concerns, but we haven't been presented with anything yet. We don't know either.
and here we are, that it's going to affect every individual homeowner. And, you know, we're concerned. Okay, well, thank you for your,
Last one I have is Robert Schultz.
Good evening. My name's Robert Shutt, 582 Sunset Point Drive in Lake June, Lake Placid, Florida. I got a couple questions. If the true goal is to reduce the pollution in the lake, why don't we start with current septic tank inspections? Stop all the fertilizing on the shorelines and investigate and find and stop all cesspits that are on some of the older properties, mostly on the other side of the lake from Lake June. But it doesn't make sense to hook up a few houses on Sunset Drive if we don't address the ones that are at the other end of the lake, that are in the lower part of the elevation. And, I mean, if we don't inspect and see what we got, we don't know. And another question is, if and when we get the money for this new sewer plant, how long will it take to complete it and get it up online? Is it going to be 1 year, 2 years, 5 years?
We've been told about a year.
1 year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other thing, I was a
What you
contractor.
got to remember, the plant is already there.
The old plants.
Yeah, we're just going to be revitalizing it,
I understand.
making improvements, making it better. And
I
he can go into that with,
But your improvements, according to the papers that I saw, you're going to spend like 28 million of that 40 that you're hoping to get for these improvements. And that doesn't leave much for all the rest that's going to be involved.
that's true, and that's why we've asked for 3 other grants.
Yeah, I know.
To help
those
along with
3 other
that.
grants are small.
But there's no sense putting lines in if we don't have a plant that's going to be able
I
to
understand that.
accept all of it. So we have to start with the plant first.
May I?
Yeah.
Brother, I agree with the first part of your statement. I wish we could put in septic tank inspections and
Why can't we?
compel getting rid, well, that's a county issue.
It's cheap.
It's cheap and it ought to be done. Are you supporting that? Do you think your neighbors and friends tonight would support that here?
If they got a letter in the mail saying, you know, in 30 days, there's going to be an inspector coming around,
I'm just curious, would other folks support inspections? Hey, what about restrictions on fertilization of your yards?
well, let me,
Hey,
Good.
we're new to the area, I've been here 2 years. We hired one of these pest control companies to like spray our yard for ants and bugs and stuff. Man, the guy's right out, he's got his rubber boots on, walking right in the water, spraying on the edge of the water. And I asked him, is this okay for the lake? He goes, it's no big deal. But I think it is a big deal.
sure it is.
And I also think, and I'm not an Orange Grove person, I don't want to see those farmers have any more bad luck, but I got a feeling that a lot of that chemicals that they are putting in the ground to keep them trees alive are part of our problem.
I would disagree with that, because where you live used to be orange groves. I've lived here
No,
most of my
I
whole life,
understand.
and the water was way clearer before Lake June Point was all houses. It was all orange grove from one end to the other, and the water was crystal clear then.
I
And
talked
we
to,
fertilized a lot more then than we do now, because we can't afford it.
okay, well, maybe,
Let me see if I can change your request to council. Is your proposal that the council go on record and ask the county commission to join us and require septic tank inspections and a fertilizer ordinance?
sure, let's do it.
Bert, I don't think we need, excuse me, I don't think we need to do that. Septic tank inspections will not fix the problem we're trying to fix right now, because you're still gonna have nitrogen going into the lakes from the water that comes out of your system.
Well,
Septic tank inspections won't do anything other than make sure a tank is good. And I'm in the business, and we do 10 to 15 inspections a week. We hardly ever find a bad tank. And if you know if there's a cesspit somewhere in Lake June, you need to let somebody know. If you know, if you say there are, but I don't know of any. And we inspect around the whole house, around the whole lake. Those houses are valuable and desired. When a house goes up for sale, most people want to do an inspection on it. And I've been in the business for 6 years, and I have not found a cesspit anywhere in this county. So I don't know where you come up with that. If you're trying to be obstinate, making stuff up, but if you know of one, you need to let us know. Because it is not legal to have a cesspit anywhere in the state of Florida.
yeah, the other thing, I was a contractor down in the Florida Keys for over 40 years. We lived down there over 40 years. They put the sewer plants in our town. It started out where it seemed like affordable, and it went way out of budget. It took multiple years to hook it up, and they pretty much got most of the keys hooked up now. And what they've determined is the water quality isn't that much better. So, you know, there were aerobic treatment plants, you know about them, that they had mandated for a few years in the Keys. And the reason was it was going to be the best thing for the environment. And I think they could do that in lieu of some of these tank systems that they have now offered. Because people are going to be putting in septic tanks probably for the next 5 years before this thing's totally up and running for everybody, if it ever is. I think, sad to say it, but I think a lot of people are just looking at that $40 million as this big gift coming out of the sky, and we're figuring out how we can get it and spend it. But is it really all about the
Sir, I
health
think
of
you're
the
making
lake?
stuff up now. You're just wasting our time.
Well,
That's so insulting for you to say that, because this has been a huge nuisance for us to have to deal with. We are trying to correct the problems on our lakes, and this is a start, and the state is willing to help. For me personally, this takes away $2,500, $1,600. Having to bill for the system will be one customer I won't have in my personal business. This hurts me personally and my family, because I am in the septic business, and anyone who goes on sewer is someone I will not be able to deal with in the future. In a small town, to lose 1,000 to 2,500 customers is a tremendous loss to my personal business. I am doing this at a loss to myself. And if you just sit there and act like, or say that we're taking advantage of a $40 million grant trying to spend it, is just too insulting to sit here and listen to. I can't believe you'd say something like that.
And the thing that bothers me is a comment you said that we're doing this based on a few houses on your street. That's absolutely not true. We're doing this on thousands of homes all over, in the county, in the town, to get better water quality. Placid Lakes right now can't use their beach because of pollution. We want to try to help them out so that they can open their beach here in the next few years. You know, so to say we're picking on you and a few homes on your street, that kind of set with me a little bit. So you've just taken everybody else out of the equation. This is all about you, and I'm sorry, that's not true.
all right, well, Appreciate your time, and good luck to all of us.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Talon. I'm relatively new to the area, but my mother has been here since 1983. We all live in Placid Lakes. I'm on Grape, she's on Washington. Second of all, y'all should know that my husband and I and my grandparents have made our living being builders. And I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate here, and I don't wanna make my neighbors mad, but I just want you to take a breath, and I'm gonna reiterate a couple of things that these folks have said tonight that y'all better listen to. Mr. Sapp just told you what the federal government is doing to us with sewer, whether we like it or not. My husband and I relocated here from the west, and we have been impacted by these ginormous septic costs for much longer. The state's pre-adopted a lot of this, and you really need to take time to listen to what he said and research it, because he is not feeding you a line of crap. He is telling you the truth. Second thing I want to say is I understand, because in the beginning when the letter came out and I did a little research, I was a little concerned about the communication, and it's always hard on a project like this. I relate to when we have a new customer who wants us to design, build a house, and they want this number up front, but I don't even know what kind of tile they want. These guys here are trying to tell you that what they're trying to do, they can't give you numbers because they don't have any subcontractor numbers. They don't know what it's gonna cost. One thing that caught my ear, because I've been opposed to the low pressure system, but we're coming to a point where we need to realize, one of your council people told you that a very well trusted excavator says we can't get the depth because of the muck. If y'all don't know what that means, stop being my husband after. We'll explain it to you. It's about sewer lines floating. Okay, so y'all talk about poop doesn't run uphill. Well, you can bury them, and if they're in muck, they're gonna float. So these guys, I understand you feel like you haven't had the communication, but I'm hearing things as a builder, as a woman. I know I'm not supposed to know this stuff, but I do. There's stuff here that's true. Do I know that everything that they're saying is true, the numbers, the budgeting? So they got a 5-year plan for maintenance. We got a 5-year warranty. Those are good things I'm hearing. I'm telling you, we're gonna have to have public sewer. It is not an option. Mr. Sapp is cutting his throat by being a proponent of it. Big town is coming to small town, whether it's septic, electric, or water. There's a lot of challenges still to be made, but the process is they gotta go get some numbers. That's what they just told you. We have to go and get numbers and see what we can do, because they're trying to grab numbers out of the sky. And with inflation, diesel costs, material costs, oil going up and down, the cost of the pipe, they don't even know what they're working with, guys. So take a breath, everybody, as a community. Stop fighting. This is gonna, the thing that I heard, the 2025, that's not a joke. Your system fails, you could have to put that $25,000 system in. Then, guess what? The EPA, the DEP, might still force you to hook up. So these are real things that are going on. And it's not only coming from the Florida Department of Environmental, it's coming from the Fed Environmental. So something has to happen, and fighting over it isn't going to do any good. But I'm telling you, these guys are telling you real construction things that make sense. So give them a chance to work the numbers up. They can't, and I understand the thing about the plant, the lady who said nobody wants all the poop by their house. I get that. I do get that. And I understand that. I get that. I know you don't want that plant to be expanded. But my gut tells me there isn't half enough money to move that plant behind this building. That is an exponential cost that just can't be dealt with. When we get that plant brought up and some sewer lines in, yeah, guess what? Probably down the road, there'll have to be a new plant put behind this building. But we're in a small window where we're going to be in a pickle. I hate to tell you, but that's what I'm seeing. Am I right? Maybe not. But as somebody that's been in construction her whole life, I'm hearing a lot of things that make sense. And from the beginning, I was against this. But I come here and I hear industry things that make sense. So why doesn't everybody just, if there's real things about real facts and construction, let's get some people in our community that can help. But I don't think we have time to delay everything to have more public meetings. But that's my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add to that. Thank you for that. One thing I wanted to mention also that I forgot earlier is when these ATU systems, the advanced treatment systems, are mandated for us to put on new construction and on repairs in the future, they also require an annual inspection that'll be between $200 and $500 a year. So that adds another 30, 40, 50 bucks a month to your annual cost of your existing system that you have. There are more costs coming than people realize. And I think the sewer is a gift. I hope it comes by my house. And I have a fairly new, expensive system at my house as well. And I will abandon it in a second to hook up to anything the town will take. I think it's a true privilege that this is being done, and I don't understand the pushback. I don't get it.
Oh, you've already? No. Yes? Yep, come to the podium if you can, please. And state your name and where you live for the record. You can pull it down.
I live in Placid Lakes. I lived in Sun and Lakes for 38 years, but I now live in Placid Lakes. The only thing that I haven't heard here tonight is a thank you to all of the people who are taking their time and their energy to try to protect our home sites. Everybody is so interested in what it's going to cost them. What is it going to cost them if they lose their home site because they cannot provide proper sewage? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Marlene, I called you once before, but.
Good evening. My name is Marlene Barger. I live at 76 Sunset Point Drive. I just want to make a couple of points. One is I support everything, the association supports everything that Colleen said. Everybody here is trying to do the right thing, the council as well as us. A couple points that I do want to make. Joy had talked about, as any business person does, is being able to project your costs. You don't have to have all your figures in to know what your some potential costs, how many more employees, how big do you want to be? So those things should be done. The other thing, Greg, I want to point out a couple of things. You talked as though, when Josie talked, that she somehow was against it. No, what she's trying to talk about is how many people are going to get this. You almost talk like everybody's going to get it and it's not going to cost anybody anything. Well, that's not true.
That is not what I said at all.
Well, you almost implied that. I'm the listener.
I actually said the opposite, if I may.
I'm
I want to do
I'm
low
not
pressure
here to
across the
argue.
board
I'm
and have
just
you.
saying my perception of it. My perception is what I heard. Now, the other point I want to make is typically when you have a town hall meeting, everything that you're going to project should be on the website starting Thursday night. That was not up there. Part of being able to communicate with the community and having constituents come forward is to make sure we're fully informed. We didn't see any of this at the website. This is the first time we're seeing this tonight. Secondly, to challenge people, do you not care about the lakes? Everybody in here cares about the lakes. This is not the issue. The issue is what is the best way to save and protect our lakes? I want to bring up one point. Placid Lakes, the Tofla area down by Catfish Creek, had a fecal count of over 600,000. What was it? 600 fecal count. It was taken recently, it's down to 325. Now, what could have caused that? Do you think all those people around that area went on to a notional sewer system? The question to be asked, why did the fecal count drop dramatically from 600 to 325? In order for the beach to open, it has to be 200. The other thing we talked about was in August to have a meeting again like we had so people can sit down and talk more. And it's not trying to delay the work, pick on anybody who's trying to do anything because everybody's doing hard work. These people here are all doing hard work as well. There's a lot of knowledge sitting out here. And all they're trying to do is inculcate some of that, as you're trying to inculcate an exchange of information. And Bert, I've known you for a long time, and as far as I know, you're not an elected official, so maybe you should fill out the form to speak. Because I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate it because you're not an elected official to be challenging in such a derogatory way citizens who are trying to do the best thing that they think is in all of our interests. I'm a little upset now from some of the things that I've just witnessed tonight. It's a shock to me. Thank you.
Marlene, if you recall, I was asked several questions, or at least several questions where, I listened to you. Now, just give me a moment if you would. Pardon? The point is, several questions were presented that I had the answers to. So yes, I took the liberty of asking. You want information. That's what the battle cry is. Do you not want me to share that information? Now, as far as some opinions, I do intend to take to that podium and share my opinions. I do intend to take to that podium and share my opinions at the appropriate time. Tonight, we're not going to make decisions that I know of.
But we still have the decorum and the format.
Marlene, you need to speak in the mic for the record, please.
I appreciate that. My point is, in some cases, you were challenging people before they even asked you a question. And that leaves me, if you have all the information, why doesn't Kevin not have all that information? Why isn't Kevin answering all those questions? Why isn't Kevin making all those statements? He is the one that's in charge.
I'm not going to argue with you, Marlene.
I'm just going to leave it at that. I love you, Brett. You know me, Bert. You know that. We have a long-time relationship. I do respect the town council. I do respect the decorum and the format of it and the flow of it, which is why I also expect that these view graphs and any slides should be on the website Thursday night before the meeting, so all of us have an opportunity to take a look. And we welcome your comments when you're asked.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. Yes. I want to make sure we're all on the same page. And I understand the perception of frustration with some members of the public in regards to having information. And that was frankly why we weren't able to hold some of those workshops because we do not have the information. We still do not have all the information we need to make decisions. So further delaying doesn't solve the information problem, and we can all just meet and speculate, but so far, I believe, let me just kind of go through it in my mind. We kind of got started down this road because in Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Harris, correct me if I'm wrong. DEP asked our utility to help with the Camp and Conference Center issue because it was creating a water quality degradation for Lake Placid, and the DEP came to us and asked us to get involved, and we worked with the state of Florida to find the funding to resolve the Camp and Conference Center situation. Is that accurate?
Were you directing that?
Yes,
to
I'm
me?
sorry, to either
I
of
didn't
you.
want to get no.
No, I mean, that's how we got started. DEP asked us to
I
work with the
wasn't here
camp.
when it started, so I can't respond to that one.
Okay.
I was here, and I don't recall who picked up the phone first, whether it was DEP or the Camp and Conference Center, but they both wanted us to be involved because of our system.
Right. And then DEP further has said, we want to work with you to work on water quality issues in this area.
Yes.
And we all understand that when or if we start down this road and we start putting in systems, that it will not provide an immediate complete relief. There'll be legacy material that'll move through the water table for decades, that'll move through, that's not going to be an immediate thing. Is that accurate, Kevin?
That's correct.
And the only thing we have committed to in this $40 million so far is a little bit of preliminary design so that we could go to bid for, for other costs. Really, the only cost we have really committed to is the design of the new plant. Is that accurate?
The new plant and the design of the projects.
Right. But,
So that's it.
what you're asking us to do tonight is to, I'm going to use the word whittle down the number of projects that we are going to design because we believe that we obviously do not have enough money to cover 4 or 5 areas. We're going to whittle it down to several priority areas where we feel like we'll have the most impact. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And the current plant in its current location, it was originally permitted in the spray ponds were designed to cover 1 million gallons. Isn't that accurate?
Yes.
And we've only ramped up and had trains that would do 250, but that current location was specifically picked by engineering firms and designed to handle 1 million gallons.
That's correct.
So we're going back in the same footprint that's been designed for 1 million gallons for quite a while.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. And you and the Utility Commission have talked about a number of areas, including along Serena, because it's along the path of lines that are going to happen both through the Camp and Conference Center project and by extension, the greater project, correct?
Correct.
And your recommendation is that, and the engineers and the experts that we have had have said, when you go out there and you do the Placid Lake Canal areas, it's not feasible to use gravity system. If you're going to go out there, you need to do low pressure just because of the geography and the soil makeup in that area, correct?
It was originally the recommendation by the engineers and then confirmed for a different reason by Mr. Raincourt.
And if we're going to do stuff along the north shore of Lake Placid, geography makes it where we can't use gravity there, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So your recommendation, staff's recommendation, is that we move to these base priorities that will impact the impaired lakes as a priority, and we are going to narrow the scope, and we are only going to spend money designing systems for a limited number of areas so that we can go to bid and figure out whether we can build those, correct?
That's correct.
And then, once we get those numbers in, at the same time, simultaneously, we're waiting on DEP and the Florida legislature to make decisions in regards whether or not there'll be additional money that would be targeted towards assisting for homeowner hookups, correct?
We will have answers on the grant before we will have any bid numbers.
Okay. And we are not, and if whatever action we end up taking tonight, we are not obligating that we are not making a decision tonight or in the short term whether or not we are going to assist with homeowner hookups. That's a decision that'll be made after we know all the costs and we know whether or not we're going to get additional funds, correct?
For this grant, correct. We made a commitment with the additional grant that we would cover 100% of the cost of the connection with the additional grant. But this current grant, we've made no commitment for requiring hookups or assisting with hookups or anything else. What we're doing, what we made a commitment to in this grant is to extend lines.
And so the conversation we will have in the spring, once we have numbers, is what can we afford to do? What assistance are we getting? And then we will have a conversation about if we're going to build systems, what number of homes really need to be added to the system shortly after completion to make that system functionally operational, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I guess what that comes down to is, we're going to have a very brief conversation about just perhaps adopting these base priorities, which, just to be clear, the base priorities that you're recommended do not include the neighborhood Lake June Point, correct?
The that's correct. Base priorities are strictly the new plant and closing the existing two plants. Tomoka, South Plant, and actually the North Plant, which is incorporated, all of that tankage and all of that equipment still gets used as part of the new design. It's not getting abandoned, not getting torn down, it's part of the new design, the expansion. So that's the base priorities are those three plants.
And to your point earlier to a question, by operating a new, better plant, our operational cost for the plant facility are actually going to go down because we're going to be operating one better plant than three older plants, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I mean, I guess my point is I want to make sure in a public setting that we are making progress. So all this is really making progress towards running a more efficient utility system, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
I have a couple of comments.
Okay.
I have a couple of comments. I've stayed silent, which is not my strong point. But first of all, with reference to we should not design the project, we have to design the project. Otherwise, we don't know how much money we have to spend to potentially build the project. So if we don't spend money to design the project, we will simply sit here and argue back and forth until we all turn older and grayer. So understand, please, that we have to design it. That doesn't mean we have to build it. It means we have to design it in order to see if we have to build it or want to build it, okay? Secondly, as far as the placement of the new wastewater treatment plant, I know you're concerned about where the wastewater treatment plant is, partially because it's in the somewhat neighborhood of Lake June Point. It is also, by the way, if you move it to this site on the back side, you may not realize that the communities of Tropical Harbor back up to this site here, and the communities of Tomoka Heights are on the front side of this site here. So without drawing a point-to-point comparison, it's kind of like building a jail or building a prison. Everybody wants a new jail or a new prison, but they don't want it in my backyard. Well, it's got to be somewhere, folks. And we know where the sewer plant is now. I happen to live quite near the sewer plant, and I have never had any problem with any odor or any health issues that I'm aware of that have to do with the sewer plant or anything like that. And it would seem to me that if one is there now, pretty good place to put another one, okay? So that's the second thing. And as far as workshops, I think we've done an awfully good job about listening to you at this point. We cannot go back and redo what was done in the beginning. Obviously, there was a mistake made. We should have been more forthcoming in the beginning of this project. We can't go back and fix that. But going forward with more workshops, I don't know what else we can tell you when we don't have any more information. And I don't know how many times we need to hear the same questions and the same concerns that you've already brought up. We got that. We absolutely got it. And communication doesn't mean that you get to be right. Communication is we both hear both sides and we come to a conclusion, or everybody gets more educated. And I believe, once again, we can't do anything of any value, of any consequence, until we know how much things are going to cost, what kind of grants are out there that we have gotten, and then how we go forward. And as far as are we going to have people to maintain it at the time that it's built? That's a 4 or 5 year down the road question, but it's still a valid question. But I think it's something that we will certainly keep in mind during the budget process. Otherwise, we wouldn't be entrusted with doing the budget process. So I think that's the end of my comments.
So Mr. McCarthy, your recommendation, staff's recommendation would be to move to adopt the base priorities as listed in the impaired lakes as a priority list, utilizing low-pressure design and excluding the remaining projects. Is that your recommendation?
That is correct.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments from the podium?
Yes. I think adding Placid Lakes to this is good, because there's a lot of houses there. But if we go from the highest elevation south, would it be better to put South Lake Placid ahead of Placid Lakes and do all the way around Lake Placid first, and then move our way down if we get more money?
So the list doesn't set a priority as far as funding and what gets done and what doesn't get done, because all of them are included. It'll be a council decision once all the bids come in to determine which ones get done and which ones don't. So you can, Placid Lakes North, Lake Placid North, Lake Placid South you can do, and then you got some money which may do the lift station at Placid Lakes and the force main, which then picks up all of Catfish Creek. But again, that's a future, just you can kick out Lake June Road on the north side, you can add it in. Those are all decisions that will be made by the council when it's appropriate. It's not being made tonight, it's bidding all of those projects, which amount to $15 million projected. We've only got 11 projected. We won't know until we have actual bids what we have. So I'm not trying to, that'll be your decision to set those priorities once those bids come in and we determine where it's at and what gets built.
In clarification, Mr. Sapp, I guess when you're talking about South Lake Placid, you're talking about down by the Lake Placid, not the
South Lake
southern
Placid, yes.
part
This
of the town of Lake Placid.
So the north and east side of Lake Placid, I was thinking the south side of the Lake Placid, which is actually here, the east side of Lake Placid.
Right.
So we're good, yes.
Okay, and I'm good with that. I think what we're talking about excluding is that residential area that is in the southern part of the historic part of the town of Lake Placid. That's what's being excluded.
Yeah,
The project that was abandoned 6 years ago,
Right.
pretty much, yes.
yes, that was listed as South Town. So
Okay.
it's a little difficult when we're talking about South Lake Placid and South. That was listed as South Town. So that's the system that's one of the ones getting kicked out.
Okay, any other comments? Take it to the audience.
My name's Brad Schuman. I live on 161 Loquat Road Northeast at the corner of Canal 5 and Catfish Creek. Been there for 17 years. Definitely agree with the deterioration of the Catfish Creek at least, and the lake. I mean, I've spent more time on Catfish Creek trying to clean it up than almost anybody out there. If you could, you had a priority list. Could you bring that slide back up? Now, some explanation there. Placid Lakes South and Placid Lake or South Town Where's,
So if you look at the area to priorities, which is part of my motion, northeast Lake Placid is there's Lake Placid itself. The lake is split into two areas, South Lake Placid, North Lake Placid. So that's begins at the top with all of Lake Placid, Placid Lakes, and then Lake June Road is the piece that runs along from County Road 17, where we're already building a force main up to Bishop Park. Bishop Park's a high-use area, obviously, with a town-owned facility and public restrooms and a park. So that's the pieces that I'm including. The pieces that I was excluding in my recommendation is what was called Simpsonville Lake June Hills. They have their own wastewater treatment plant today. So Lake June Point, Lake Pearl Serena, and then the South Town, which that was the clarification just made. So that's the split between.
clears it up a little bit.
Between the
And I would agree
two.
with your priority list. It's coming from Placid Lakes. The other thing I'd like to add, you talked about the Fish and Wildlife and DEP meeting Wednesday. And just a little heads up, they are addressing the total phosphate issue, taking small steps, but they're looking at some floating vegetation islands and a filtering system at the golf course. So there are steps. Total nitrates is a problem, Sechi, the chlorophyll, phosphates are a problem, but they are addressing the phosphate problem as well. Although it's small steps, it is steps in the right direction. And it's a grant with Swift Mud, 75%, county 25%. Thank you.
Okay. Clerk, bring it back, poll the council.
Councilmember Royce?
Yes.
Councilmember Hayes?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Sapp?
Yes.
Okay, is there anything else to come up under this? If not, we'll move on to the Lake Placid Police Department.
Just a quick update at Councilman Hayes' request. The plans are still underway. They've got them almost complete for the Swift Mud site permit modification that we've got to go to, so they're still making progress on the plans. We don't expect them to be 100% complete for several more months, but they will be complete prior to us knowing about our legislative appropriation.
Thank you. We'll hear from you again next month.
Any comments on that from the audience? Okay. I guess now we'll go to the town attorney. You got anything?
I think I've said enough tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. All right, we'll go to our department heads. Anybody have anything? Alan, I do want to have you stand up for a minute. Him and his crew did an absolutely fabulous job for the parade, and I want to thank them for what they did. Also, I have a letter here from our town administrator. It says, Dear Mayor, I am requesting that this letter be read to town council. It is an appreciation of Police Chief Mark Snyder's taking the time this year to facilitate access to a live stream of the 2023 Christmas parade. Physical attendance is not possible to some. However, it was great to watch via the police department Facebook link provided by Chief Snyder. Thank you. And this is from our past police chief and town administrator, Phil Williams, whose wife is homebound, and they were able to enjoy the parade through this. So Chief, on behalf of the town and all of our citizens, thank you for what you did. Nell?
I too would like to thank both, all the town employees that had to do with making sure that the parade looked nice, the route looked beautiful, and was nicely, policed and everything. And that our police chief and his staff and all of the other law enforcement agencies that helped with the parade. I think they did a great job, and I thank you very much for that.
Great.
Given the season, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a happy holiday season. I think we all, to Ms. Hayes' point, we probably don't take enough time to thank all of our staff for the tremendous amount of service they provide the town. And especially this time of year, just like to say we appreciate all they do. Merry Christmas to y'all.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah, I spoke to Eva earlier, last week, actually, just kind of bringing everyone up to speed. The FERDAP grant for the pickleball courts that we need for a needing match to go to RPAC to get some county money. They extended that from, it was an August deadline to October.
Right.
Then there was a little legal glitch on the deed, so we've got that taken care of, and we're now just still waiting to hear back from them.
See if we get
So
money.
I guess at this point, no news is good news.
Mr. Sapp?
What Ray said. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Something for everybody. You've seen Taco Bell, and you've seen the sign opening soon. I stopped there a couple days ago and went inside and talked to not only the manager, but the general manager. They gave me a tour of the place. I welcomed to Lake Placid, told them the facilities looked great, and I asked them if they had any idea of when they were going to open. And he couldn't give me a specific date, but he said they were shooting for this Thursday. So if any of you want to enjoy a taco, hopefully we'll have it open here in a few days. So, but you can stop in. They're nice people. They're really proud of what they got there, and they're willing to show it to anybody. So, but I did go in and welcome them on behalf of the town, and it's just another step in the growth of Lake Placid. So, Mr. McCarthy, you got anything else? Is there any other business to come before town council? Yes.
I would just like to put out there, the live stream of the parade would not have been possible without the Morris News Network and the assistance by Tony and Justin Morris. And would like to just say that the road closures for the parade would not have been possible without the help of Sebring Police and Florida Highway Patrol.
Yes, there was a lot involved. Okay. All right. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.